I'm Ed Frawley. I'm here today with Tami McLeod. Tami is a friend of Cindy and mine. She's a professional dog trainer that is going to do a new course for our Leerburg online university. And it's a course that pertains to maintaining drive in a competition working dog, be it AKC obedience or IPO or ring sport. And we've been filming it now for 3 days. We still have a couple more days of filming. But I think we'll take a minute here and talk to Tami, because a lot of our customers don't know all the professional dog trainers that are around the United States. And Tami has an extensive background in dog training, and I want to be the first one to thank her for agreeing to do this. It's a real privilege for us to have Tami come and do these courses with us, and I think the people that take this course are going to know why I said that. But to begin with, Tami, why don't you tell us where you live and what you do?
Okay. So I live in southern Arizona, which we call Baja, Arizona. Anywhere south of Tucson is considered Baja, but we live in Sonoyta, which is this teeny-weeny little town in southern Arizona. Moved there from Nashville, so I'd been in Nashville for 7 years and lived in Seattle before that. And
you were even a police officer, right?
I was a police officer while I was in Nashville for 4 years, so that was kind of a really good experience for me. And I always go back to dog training, which is my first love, obviously. So transitioned back from police work to dog training. And I'm a professional dog trainer there, primarily for pet dog training as well as competition coaching. Myself, along with my boyfriend and training partner, Chris Vaughn, run a business out there. We do pet dog training.
So we'll overlay your phone number on the video now. So Chris and Tami are definitely people that train in the method that we support, and anybody out there that's looking to have someone take their dog and treat it humanely for a period of time, I would highly recommend that you give Tami and Chris a call and talk to them. But why don't you talk a little bit about the services that you offer so people can get a feel for what you do?
Yeah.
I mean, when you have customers come to you for training, what are your thoughts on that? What kind of programs do you run?
Yeah, so we run a few different programs. My most popular program is what I call Immersion Canine Camp, and that's a 30-day board and train program where dogs are accepted into our home environment. So I can only take a couple of dogs at a time because I need the dogs to be living in the home environment. And because we do the 30-day program, it really allows us to have enough time to lay the foundation correctly, work on any behavioral issues, keeping the dog in the house. So I'm very much opposed to a 2-week program myself because it doesn't allow enough time to facilitate the entire training program. I want to be able to train really consistent with my values in training, my training system. I don't want to have to make any sacrifices based on time constraints or anything like that. So I think to have a really humane, proper, complete training program, you have to allow time, and sometimes it just takes repetitions. And I know a lot of trainers out there are actually doing 2-week programs, and that's fine. I just personally prefer to stick with the 30 days and sometimes more.
I agree. And for the last 15 years, I've written articles with a negative connotation towards people that send their dogs off for training, because to the majority of professional dog trainers, time is money. And a lot of customers don't want to let a professional dog trainer take the time it takes to train a dog the way we train dogs. And the result is they get involved with what I call yank and crank trainers, where these guys use a lot of force, they get results very quickly, but it's at the detriment of the temperament of the dogs. And the dogs come home from those programs and they're not the same dogs ever.
Right. So Chris and I always talk about having a shell of a dog. We never want to see the shell of a dog. And we've seen dogs that come out of various programs, and what's left is essentially the shell of a dog. So they're not they're not expressing their own personality, and that sort of ties into my competition work as well. We want the dogs to be very happy about being with the handler and in the world and things like that. So the only dogs that we will take in anything less than a 30-day program would be those dogs, for example, that are already long-term students that have done private one-on-one lessons with us, home lesson packages, that sort of thing. And we've worked with that dog intensively. We know what that dog's foundation is. We'll go ahead and do the clicker conditioning and the clicker foundation or the verbal marker foundation. So they're really on the same program. And we just sort of incorporate home living behaviors, much like we would for competition. So there's sort of this feeling that you have to squish a pet dog to make it be a good pet dog, like that, as if pet dog training is entirely different than competition training. And I've never really bought into that. So I feel that whether it's a competition dog or a pet dog, you still put the same amount of emphasis. You might change the energy level a little bit, like, you know, we're going to be using more food rewards versus, you know, toy rewards. We don't want the dogs to be really bouncing off the walls necessarily inside the home, but the same concept applies. We still use, we still do luring, we still utilize verbal markers or clickers, we still do the systematic proofing to get the dogs really solid in the home environment. So I think just staying consistent with how we want to feel. I'd rather be a starving artist that trains correctly than make sacrifices, right, and
I like
do a
it.
poor job.
I'm going to have to go back to some of my articles and comments that I've written on our website and put an addendum in there that not all professional dog trainers are yank and crank trainers.
No.
And that's an important thing. That's a really, really important thing.
Right.
So how many dogs do you and Chris have of your own then?
So we have 5 dogs right now of our own. We have a variety. So 4 of them are indoor dogs, pets essentially. We have one that is a fairly new acquisition that we've had for about almost a year and a half now. That was a retired explosives detection dog. So she was accustomed to living in a kennel environment, and she hasn't quite made any sort of transition into the home environment.
How old is she?
She is 6 years old. So we got hers a little bit of an older dog, but my border collie is acclimated to the home environment. My old 12-year-old dog, Jacobo, is complete house couch potato now. But we do exercise a lot of management. So it's important, I think, as we go through this course to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, I do exercise management. It's not a free-for-all running through our house at all. But yeah, so we have some really cool dogs and an upcoming puppy that I'm really excited about.
The cool thing is people are going to see in this course the level of drive in this border collie that you have. And I've seen some high drive border collies, but I've never seen a border collie that's this high a drive.
Sheamus the famous.
And then you think, okay, this dog can be managed in the home and be a calm, nice dog in the home.
Sheamus is a freak of nature. He's awesome. I actually got him from a breeder in Texas, B&B Border Collies, and they acquired him as a demo dog for pet demo work because he's a very approachable dog. He's fluffy, he's cute, you know, and I want to do competition as well. So balancing making him well behaved in the household and also being a competition dog, that has to be done artfully.
Yeah. You'll see. Anybody that takes this course will see.
Yeah, and he was built up from the time, you have to keep that in mind, he was built up from the time he was just a itty bitty little puppy, like, so everything was centered around drive development. So easily we could have made him a little bit calmer, but I wanted the best of both worlds, selfishly. So with a high drive dog, that's also my buddy.
Well, and one thing I should say too, that I'm right in the middle of going around our home here, and you see how we manage our dogs here and all the different levels that we manage it. And I'm going to write an article on how we manage our house dogs, because I think it'll help a lot of people, and we'll make it part of this course. We'll just put it in the course, even though it'll be on the Leerburg website. It's such an important thing. How long have you been training though?
So I've been training for about 25 years. So I'm 40 this year. I'm 40.
You didn't have to say that.
I know, but I'm okay. I'm proud of that. I'm
okay. I'm a 35-year-old guy.
I could tell.
Trapped
I know.
Trapped in a 67-year-old body.
So I just turned 40 this year, and that's I think it's cool. So I'm fine with that.
50's bad when you hit 50. That really sucks. When you hit 68, that
Indeed.
sucks even worse.
Well,
But at least you hit it. But
least you
anyway, I
made
didn't
it.
mean to
Sorry,
interrupt.
but-
Tell us about
Right.
how long you've been training dogs.
so I've been training dogs for a long time. My dad, Captain Tami McLeod, I have to give him a plug because he got me involved with
And
dog
he was in the
training.
Merchant Marine, you told me last night, which is cool.
Yes, Dad was
Very
a Merchant
cool.
Marine. He's actually a captain in the Merchant Marines,
Neat.
and he trained dogs part-time, like just as a hobby, right?
Yeah.
So he was one of the first in the sport of Schutzhund
Yeah.
in the U.S., like back when you started too. We were talking about this early, like late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. He's actually the Pacific Northwest training director for many, many years. He's,
I didn't know that.
yeah, like really strong, opinionated guy. Anybody who knows my dad, right? So anyway, he got me involved in the sport when I was 16. But prior to that, I was never allowed to go to the Schutzhund Club, and
How come?
because it was my dad's time. So he went on Sundays. That was his day, and he made me stay away from dog training. I could do AKC handling, and I could do AKC obedience. So when I was 13. I had one of his Schutzhund washouts, and he kind of gave me that dog, and he said, "Okay, you can have this dog." And I think I put a CD on that dog, and we won a couple of awards, High German Shepherd awards, things like that, and that was fun. So that was sort of my intro to competitive sports when I was 13 years old, and from there, when I turned 16, I was allowed to go to the Schutzhund Club when I got my driver's license. So as soon as I got my driver's license, like any other normal 16-year-old girl, I hopped in the vehicle and I went to Schutzhund Club that night. And I remember being so excited that I could go, which is really freakishly weird because most 16-year-olds don't want to train dogs. But that's how I got started. I've been obsessive about animals since the time I was a little kid. I actually would save my lunch at school, and I would have like a pack of dogs. I think I thought I was the dog whisperer. So I'd have like 5 dogs following me down the road home
Sounds like
because
Cindy.
I fed them. Sounds like Cindy.
Same as Cindy. Yeah.
So that's how long I've been training.
But you've had some success. I mean, you've trained at a national and international level. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think so, moderately. Certainly there are a lot of dog trainers that are far more accomplished than I am, but I've put over 100 new working titles on dogs throughout the years, and primarily in the sport of IPO. We used to call it Schutzhund back then, and now
I still do.
I still do too.
I can't buy into IPO. I'm sorry, it's Schutzhund.
Schutzhund. We'll
It's
just call it
Schutzhund,
Schutzhund.
yeah.
Okay. And so I've done some AKC titling as well, and I had a dog that took me to the national and international level. So I was on the FCI team to Germany one year, which was fun. It was a really good learning experience for me. 4 different dogs to the Schutzhund 3 level, or IPO 3 level, and national level. So they've all, like, I have been very fortunate to have some really good teaching dogs. So they had enough talent to be able to get me to that level, but they were sort of project dogs, a lot of them. So actually the dog that I took to several championships, and including Germany, wasn't the best dog in the world, but I made a ton of mistakes, and I was actually told to get rid of that dog by many world level trainers. Just get rid of him, he's no good, but he was he was really my baby, he was my only dog, Philo, at the time, and I remember being so offended, and I really took it personally because...
When they said dump the dog?
They said dump the dog. Yeah, get rid of the dog. It's the dog, right? And it wasn't entirely. The dog was an okay dog, and I was a not so good trainer. And somehow he carried me through despite all of the mistakes I made. So it made me a better trainer. Made me a lot better trainer.
I went to my first Schutzhund seminar in 1974. Like you, got the bug, went to every seminar that I could go to, yada, 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 and started buying dogs and training dogs in search of the perfect dog.
I went through that too.
Everybody does this, and they look for the perfect dog.
Right.
The one they got at home, he's good, but he's not perfect.
Right.
It takes a lot of years for people to realize there is no perfect dog. Sometimes there's perfect dog trainers, or close to perfect, but that's what people should aspire to. Who are some of your mentors as you came along? None of us thought all of this stuff up.
Right,
ourselves.
so I didn't think, hopefully I thought some of it up, But most of
everybody
it
has
we
their
sort
twist
of,
on it,
yeah,
but
like
we all have our
absorb.
people that helped us along the way.
Exactly, like,
I mean,
exactly. So it's a combination. So there's so many trainers that, you know, I've kind of pulled from over the years who have been certainly impactful to me. I would say one trainer in particular, obviously Michael Ellis, one of my very good friends over the years, kind of less touch more recently, but over the years he was very instrumental in helping me really understand the power of empowering young dogs. So where Michael was really impactful was empowering young dogs in the bite work. Another very impactful trainer, and I would consider one of my obedience mentors to some degree, was Janice Gunn. Janice is an extremely talented and experienced and accomplished trainer in Canada, TNT Kennels, and to me, I was able to put together the drive work from my background with all of the IPO background together with the accuracy portion. I actually sought her out. So I was getting consistently fairly high scores in obedience with a particular dog. And at that time, I went to Janice so that I could get a higher level of accuracy. Because really, when you compare really high level AKC obedience competitors, in obedience, that's our thing. Obedience is their thing, right? So even though I was doing well in Schutzhund, well enough in Schutzhund, the level of high level of AKC obedience just sort of blew IPO or Schutzhund obedience out of the water, right?
it still does.
It still does, yeah, for sure. If you want really high level obedience, if you can somehow capture the drive work and put it together with the accuracy of the top tier AKC handlers, then for sure you've really accomplished something.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's always easy to have accuracy. It's always easier to have drive, but kind of melding the two together is where the real art and craft lies of obedience work. So Janice was really impactful. Another trainer that I feel was very helpful and impactful in my early Schutzhund career was Armin Winkler, actually. He really understands drive work, and that sort of segues back to the old helmet riser stuff, like all that drive work. So the old book Der Schutzhund, I don't know if you remember that, the first 60 pages, where, you know, a lot of that stuff we look at it and we go, oh hey, it's antiquated, we don't train like that anymore. But I think now some of that drive work is becoming lost, right? So we get so technical, we can get so technical that we forget about the drive aspect. And so Armin was very helpful with teaching me and having me really understand, you know, things like fighting drive and
He
how
knows
that.
it. Armin is good.
He
He's
knows
really good.
it. Like, he's a really super talented training decoy. So he's the only one that's ever blown my dog up, like really put pressure on him and showed me a hole in my training, right? So where I actually had to address it. And if Armin was watching, we actually argued about it at the time, but I have immense respect for him. So he's really, really good that way. Another trainer that I feel is more recently has been important and has really impacted my training has been Kurt Brock. So Kurt Brock has
Why don't you say who he is, because a lot of the people aren't going to know him.
Right. Kurt Brock is a competitive AKC trainer. He's been ranked nationally, I think, third one year, which is ridiculously difficult because the sheer numbers of top AKC competitors is just huge. Like, it's so overwhelming and competitive compared to like Schutzhund or IPO, right? We might have less than 10,000 people in the entire United States doing IPO work, whereas in AKC, I don't even know what the numbers are. It's just astronomical, right? Huge. So Kurt, he's located in Nashville. He and I actually went to him for a lesson initially to really up my level of accuracy. I'm taking that same concept that I utilized when I was in the Pacific Northwest with Janice, you know, going to an AKC person to up my game, so to speak. He actually was very helpful, and he and I started training together and said, okay, hey, you know, what you're doing with the IPO work, what your background is really, that's really helping my work. Why don't we kind of buddy up and become training partners and make things, you know, better on both sides. Cool. So the accuracy as well as the drive work. So Kurt's been to several NOIs, which those of you that aren't familiar with the AKC world probably are, but if you aren't, the NOI is the National Obedience Invitational, and it's sort of the top tier, those that already have OTCHs on their dogs in most cases.
There's going to be some people, let me interrupt, because before we get up here, some people are going to watch this and wonder what's an OTCH.
Right. So
Many people already know, but a lot of people don't know. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. So OTCH stands for OTCH, right? It's Obedience Trial Champion. And to get that level, or to be coined an OTCH, essentially you have to not only go through the novice and the open and utility levels, but you have to get so many, there's like X number of legs that you have to qualify for, and placements within the top levels of competition. So it's very, very difficult to get. And I think the importance of understanding what that is that when you do a sport like IPO, for example, you only have to trial 3 times, and you could theoretically trial 3 times, 4 if you count the BH, but 4 times, and acquire an IPO 3 title. And in some cases, you can utilize that same title if it was acquired at a national championship. You may be able to make a world team your first go out. So it's only trialing 4 times, and then boom, you go to the, you can compete internationally, which there's nothing to be taken away from that. I mean, you don't want to say that that's not difficult in itself, because it's really difficult to do IPO work. But on the other side of the coin, the value of longevity and understanding what it takes to get a dog to trial year after year after year, time after time after time, should not be discounted. So it is very important. Creating longevity in the dog's working career is probably something that I'd like to really drive home, and certainly it's something that I've struggled with, and I think most competitors do struggle with. They get to a point where their dog's doing really well. Perhaps you're a top-ranked OTCH dog, or perhaps you're a Schutzhund competitor and you've had good success, but now the dog is topped out at, say, 3 years old. And that's something that I ran into with my first IPO dog. Really? Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the course, because now we're getting into the reason that we did this course. So, well, why don't you walk us through a little bit of what our goal is with this course?
Right. So the goal of the course, it's drive development for competitive obedience. And the whole concept is that you instill and condition enough drive into the dogs early on, and you're building drive as a separate exercise from the accuracy portion. So you can still do all your accuracy work, but you're not putting it together until the dog is really conditioned, right? So in other words, the dog has that cue. They come out onto the field, and every time they come onto the field or into the ring, or they see a ring gate, there's a feeling associated with that. In other words, you can't take that drive away even when the dog's 6 years old. So imagine, like, Sheamus is 3 now, right? Let's look at him when he's 6. And I bet you he's going to be, and the reason why I feel so strongly about this is because over the years I have made a lot of mistakes, and I have run into things, and a lot of students and friends and colleagues have also run into the same problems. Longevity in the dog's working career, because the dog has to love what it's doing. And not only does it create an aesthetically pleasing picture for those that are watching, obedience. It looks really good when a dog's out there just prancing away, but it really makes the connection between the dog and handler so much stronger. And on top of that, it creates a real long working career in the dog. So you have this drive to pull from when your dog's sort of down in the dumps. Dog's getting a little older. You have this drive that's there. They want to do it from the bottom of their heart.
It's very cool. And like I said, we've been filming for 3 days. We still have a few more days of filming. Yeah. And I know that people are going to love this course.
I hope so.
They're really going to love it. And it's going to be a course that beginners can get a lot out of when they take a young puppy, because I have a new puppy, a little Shih Tzu puppy. We're going to throw her in the course just because she's so beautiful.
Rosie's awesome.
Rosie,
she has all the drive you could want.
I think I'm going to do a course called Raising Rosie. That's a cool name. But anyway, the course is for people that are in AKC training, that maybe don't have a foundation in Schutzhund, or don't have a foundation in the ring sports, where we're dealing with very, very high drive dogs. And hopefully we're going to be able to give them some ideas to combine drive with accuracy, and introduce cues that will bring these dogs up higher in drive without making them lose their accuracy. And that's the beauty of the whole thing.
That's where the art lies, right?
That's
it's
where
in
the art
blending the accuracy with the drive work.
Yep.
That's where it's really difficult. So
Very cool.
hopefully, and keeping the dogs wanting to work.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So with that said, we're going to close this interview because we have more
Okay.
video to do for the course.
All right.
And it'll
Let's do
be
it.
out in a couple of months.
Great. Thank
Cool.
you.